Conflict in the Middle East has forced Middle Eastern citizens to flee from their home countries and migrate to European countries. This migration has caused a problem for European countries who are now responsible for taking care of these refugees and integrating them into society. There's a lot of risk by taking in these refugees because there's a chance that these refugees could either be radical extremists posing as harmless refugees, or these refugees could radicalize after entrance into the country. My team and I have been tasked to analyze the problem of refugee radicalization and generate potential solutions. Our problem statement is that we need to determine means to limit of the threat of refugee radicalization to increase safety and stability of refugee accepting nations while operating within the constraints of satisfying foreign military forces and NATO. Refugee radicalization has become a major problem for countries within EUCOM. First, we defined the problem using research and stakeholder analysis, value modeling, and functional and requirements analysis. We then redefined our problem and moved on to solution design. In the solution design phase, we use idea generation, alternative generation, and improvement, and cost analysis. After this step, we came up with our candidate solutions. And decision authority, sir, you are our primary stakeholder. Our other stakeholders are NATO, the EU, host nations, European citizens, and refugees. NATO, the EU, and the host nations are users interested in security, safety, stability, and public approval. Their ability to support EUCOM's efforts moving forward will directly influence the success of the system. Additionally, we will consider European citizens to be interconnected stakeholders because they are present in the system and can be affected but are not necessarily participants of the system. As the final stakeholder, these are the consumers of the system and will be the ones actually using the system as they try to assimilate into different European societies. By understanding the stakeholders of the system, we can create qualitative and quantitative value models that will help us better determine the important needs of the system. Now that I have discussed the problem definition phase, we will move to Luke and the solution design phase.
I will now talk about the solution design phase. To do this, we developed design parameters. These design parameters are refugee education, refugee housing, military mobilization, refugee monitoring, intelligence sharing, and refugee sustainment. We chose these design parameters because they are relevant factors that can contribute to the radicalization of refugees and are important to United States national security interests. Our team then thought of 4 options for each design parameter. Each of these options were then used to generate alternative solutions. After generating 6 alternative solutions, we evaluated each solution on a go, no-go basis, based on 4 critical standards for success. These standards for success are: is this solution legal? Or does this solution provide adequate shelter? We defined adequate shelter as providing enough shelter for 5,000 new arrivals per week per country. Does this solution provide adequate sustainment? Adequate sustainment was defined as: does this solution provide 2,100 calories and 50 liters of water per person per day? This is not 50 liters of drinking water. This 50 liters of water will be used for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. Does this solution provide education for refugee children? Education must be prepared for 11,000 school-aged children per country.
Now that Luke has covered the solution design phase, I will be going over the candidate solution. Thank you, Luke, for outlining the roadmap as to how we reached our 5 candidate solutions. It is my job to now discuss those 5 candidate solutions. Our 5 candidate solutions are as follows: active involvement, host country police action, host country social participation, minimal outside action, and U.S. military action. The active involvement solution coordinates EUCOM action with host country authorities. Through segregated schooling, refugee camps, and foreign aid, it provides for the well-being of refugees. Through EUCOM-sponsored training, security checkpoints, and weekly surveillance reports, it provides necessary stakeholders with means to effectively deter refugee radicalization efforts. This solution will cost around $46 million per year. Now, the host country police action solution leverages the knowledge of host country police forces along with the substantial intelligence collecting assets of EUCOM. This solution also utilizes segregated schooling, like Solution 1, but refugees will live in already established government housing and purchase their own goods and services within the country. This will stimulate the local economy and effectively help the transition process of refugees into their own host nations. Countries will also establish terror watch programs and utilize drones alongside EUCOM to survey refugee movement and radicalization hotspots. This plan will cost around $38 million per year. The host country's social participation solution facilitates the rapid integration of refugees into local societies and economies. Refugee children will attend already established local host country schooling and learn customs and culture from their classmates. Like our second solution, this solution will have refugees living in already established government housing and leverage local police forces in direct action. As refugees move into local communities and search for employment, they will be forced to fill out employment application forms, which will give host country governments an effective way to track potentially radicalized refugees. This solution will cost about $43 million. The minimal outside action solution encourages host countries to allocate additional resources to the fight against refugee radicalization. EUCOM will offer satellite monitoring and aid to host countries as they take responsibility for the refugees within their own borders. It is important for host countries to recognize that their primary goal in this mission is to lessen the risk of refugee radicalization. However, it is also their goal to take responsibility of the transition process and ease the process for which these refugees has moved from their countries into foreign lands. Additionally, EUCOM will offer cyber training to host country defense agencies to understand the effects that social media has on radicalization. This solution, our most expensive solution, will cost $53 million due to the high cost of satellite operations. The U.S. military action solution is the most invasive of all feasible solutions. It requires that EUCOM works directly with host country defense forces in raids against potential radicalized hubs. This will require approval from sovereign nations, as we understand that host countries are independent of EUCOM and can act in any way that they wish. And we can acquire this participation through a summit of EUCOM and NATO country political and military leaders, understanding that all nations are working towards the same goal. Fighting against the nonlinear force will help ease the idea of outside direct action. This solution will cost $46 million. Now, all 5 solutions provide different alternatives to attempt to solve our redefined problem statement regarding refugee radicalization. Understanding how these solutions satisfy the needs of identified stakeholders is important when deciding on a specific solution. Thank you for your time, sir, and we look forward to working with you.